Okay, back after a commercial break with Ralph Goldsmith.
All right. Oh yeah, we before we get into the part where you go home, backtracking into Europe again, a few things I would like to let you people know that maybe no one's ever heard of. In a lot of the areas that we liberated in France, it was a very strange thing. As a matter of fact, very tough to get used to it. We would see very often young girls, maybe 18, 19, 20 years old. That was not unusual. The unusual part is that in many spots they were bald. And you would wonder, why would there be so many young girls without any hair? And then we got to talking to the civilians, and what actually happened was, as I said before, the Germans had occupied for 4 years. So a lot of French girls would get sort of friendly with the German soldiers. And maybe live with them or go out with them or socialize with them and whatever. And the French civilians would really resent it with a hate that they couldn't display while the Germans were there, but that they could when we got there. What they did was they actually cut the hair off the girls deliberately and on purpose. French civilians cut the hair off these French civilian girls because they cohabitated with the Germans. So you did see very often bald girls walking around, and it strikes us the most unusual, young girls, weird, and nobody ever knew that this was going on except in these small towns where it actually occurred. And then on top of that, there was another segment of French men, civilians, that had a hatred of German soldiers, German civilians, Germans. Because in many of the cases, these Germans, when they occupied, maybe killed one of these guys' wives, girlfriends, daughters, mothers, whatever. And they resented them with a hate that was beyond description. And they joined up with our outfits in many cases, and all they asked for was food, water, and cigarettes, and maybe a warm coat if it was wintertime. And what they would do, and we gave them guns, and what they would do, they voluntarily took over all of our patrols in the middle of the night in Europe. And that was a godsend for us, because the patrol was a very dangerous situation. A patrol, basically, without getting into too many involvements, is you would leave your outfit with 3 or 4 other guys and go right in front. In front means where the Germans are, and see what the situation is. How many are there? What kind of equipment do they have? You're not to engage them. You're to find out and report back what's there. But if they saw you, they could kill you. So it was a dangerous mission, one that you never really ever looked forward to. They voluntarily took over all patrols, which saved us the job of patrol. So it saved a lot of our lives. And they didn't care. Matter of fact, they resented that they couldn't kill the Germans on the patrol. They could kill them after we fired on them, but not before. So what happened is they called this the FFI, the Free French of the Interior, or their nickname was the Maquis, M-A-C-Q-U-I. It's a French word, but it's the Free French. They were Frenchmen, they were civilians. Their hatred knew no bounds. And very often we would capture some Germans, and then they would walk them back to like a prisoner of war place, and you never saw those Germans again. They killed them. That's the way it was. The hatred was stemming from what occurred 4 years earlier with their wives and mothers and so on. So you had the Free French, you had the bald girl situation that really wasn't public. The Free French, I don't think anybody really knew unless you were in the front line of the infantry. It was well guarded secret. And they had on a uniform. You would not know that they were not Americans. We gave them everything. And they voluntarily took the worst details you can get. They voluntarily would do it day in and day out, every day. Never a compromise. That was them. Then the French, the country of France, after a while wanted to honor the 1st Infantry Division for liberating a lot of the French towns, cities, villages. So they awarded the 1st Division what they called the French Fort gear. It's a braid. It's green and red. You wear it over your shoulder. And everybody in the 1st Division got this. I got it. Everybody got it. And it was an award that only the First Division got, although there were other divisions in France, but we were sort of liberating left, right, and center. Everything we touched, we just fired and liberated. So we got this award of the French Fortiguer, which was a major honor. And with that, you get other honors. You get different medals. You get different situations. Like, for example, we were touching on medals, and I told you I got shot 3 times. Well, you got 3 Purple Hearts. A Purple Heart, shall I show it, is a medal, this one stuff, that looks like, I'm going to show it to you if I ever can open the box. I'm very handy.
Remember those typing skills.
Here it is. And this is the Purple Heart that you get. I don't know if it can, this way? This way?
This way.
You know,
Yeah, hold it straight up. There we go.
this way? Mm-hmm. That's the Purple Heart. You get that, and a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of American soldiers got this. If you get wounded, you get this. If you cut your hand on a can of K ration, you might get this. I don't know. But you do have to get wounded to get this. And then there's little clusters you get if you get a second or a third wound. You only get 1 Purple Heart, but you get additional clusters. And that's the Purple Heart. But in addition to that, for that incident I described on the beach, saving the 5 fellows, you get the Bronze Star Medal, and this is the Bronze Star. I don't know if you can catch this. You can. This is the Bronze Star Medal that gets awarded, and there are quite a few fellows in the First Division that got this. Mine was for the incident of the 5 guys on D-Day Omaha Beach. That's the reason for that. Then, continuing further, this is a German belt buckle. It's inscribed "Gott mit uns," God with us. Of course, I carried it around as a souvenir. It was taken off a dead German soldier. So I have this. And more importantly than this, and very interestingly, if you can catch this, this is Hitler's book, Mein Kampf, My World, in German. This is all in German. Everything is in German. It was taken again off a dead German officer. And in there are a few, not very many pictures of high-ranking German admiral. Here's Hitler. That's Adolf Hitler. That's his book. That's his book. And the book is entirely in German, but it's a valuable book, I'm sure, and a very rare book. It was a dead German, I don't know if he was a general, but maybe a colonel, that I took it. He was dead, and I asked his permission. He said, okay, and I got this book.
Which country were you in? You must have lugged that around for a while.
Yeah, this I carried, nothing else.
Where was that? Belgium or
No,
France
I got
or Germany?
This in Germany. I was already in Germany.
Okay.
I was already in Germany. Yeah. And speaking of Germany, I bumped into a lot of dead Germans, and there was another dead German that had a photograph album, and he was a member of the 78th Infantry Regiment, which he had inscribed on the front of this album. Can you catch that? And this is an authentic, again in Germany. I didn't want to carry too much stuff to France and Belgium. I was pretty busy. But in Germany, toward the end of the sojourn, we got this photograph album, belt buckle. Oh, and there's something else. And that's it. That's sort of a sideline. And here's my dog tags. This is an authentic United States issue with my name and address, etc., of dog tags during World War II. And these I kept sort of a little bit hidden on the bottom of my shoes because it wasn't good to get the letter H, Hebrew, in Germany. So instead of that, I carried the Gott mit uns belt buckle, figuring I'm one of them. So that if I captured, we could discuss things, since the original name was Goldschmidt, not Goldsmith. Side story of that. Now why do I have? Oh no, this one. Oh, so you got the 3 million. Oh yeah. Yes. I touched on one other thing. In combat, and very often at night, or in the daytime, I suppose too, we often talked among ourselves, of course all of us being heroes, how do you get $1 million wound? $1 million wound is a wound that would not really be very serious, but could actually send you back to the United States if it takes a very long time to heal. So in a lot of cases, A lot of the fellows used to go into holes in the ground. You build a little foxhole if that's what you want to do, and go in it, but hold your hand up high, like sort of like that. Just hold your hand up high. You don't have to catch that, but I'm just holding my hand up. The reason being to maybe catch a bullet, because if the Germans are firing on you, and if they could hit you in the hand, it's a great place to get hit, because generally speaking, it's not life-threatening, it's not very painful, but it takes a long time to heal. There's veins, there's arteries, there's muscles, and you could go home. And a lot of guys did that. You'll notice I didn't say that I did that. Not because I'm such a hero, but I didn't have a shovel, so I couldn't dig the foxhole. So therefore, I usually stayed in the basement of apartment houses. So I didn't get that $1 million wound. But there were those situations that did occur. That was the $1 million wound.
Your finger wound wasn't close enough?
Well, it sort of worked, but I deliberately didn't do it. I got shot. I mean, with the guy that I saw do it. I mean, it wasn't that I was trying to catch it. Oh yeah, there's another situation that people often wonder in the infantry, living like you do, hygiene comes into this and food comes into this. Like, how do you eat and how do you survive, and just the elements of life. Well, you do. One of the things you do is, well, eating. We used to have what they call traveling mess soldiers that would come up every once in a while in jeeps with food to the front line. Well, not to the front line, but about 500 yards or 1,000 yards behind it, and we would walk back. Nobody goes to the front line if you don't want to be in the front line. But they would come within striking distance. We would go walk down to their area, and we would go line up in a single file and go sort of like a buffet line, if you will. And they would put food on your metal tray. You had a little metal tray that you carried around, weighed nothing. And they would slop this food, the meat, the potato, whatever it was. Sometimes you didn't know what it was, but it was not bad, and you were hungry for the most part. But every once in a while, God forbid, it rained. Now that's bad, because the water's coming down, you're out in the street, it's hitting the food. It's like a stew, an all-American rain stew, is that a good word? And you don't even know what you're eating, but you're eating. And this is how you ate. As far as other hygiene, what you sort of did do, you put water in your helmet. Your helmet was a big, sort of like a bucket. Turn the helmet upside down, put water on that, and you could shave. It's not such hot water, but you could shave. And you know, speaking of shaving and staying clean, is a very odd situation. We were dirty for the most part. We were not clean shaven for the most part. Our pants did not have a crease as if it came from a dry cleaner for the most part. And whenever we captured German soldiers, for some reason, I don't know why, to this day, they look great. This is not a homophobic statement here now. They just look great. They were clean shaven. Their haircuts were beautiful. They looked great. Their clothes were clean and neat. They were great soldiers. I take nothing away from them. We beat them. We outnumbered them. We won. But the point is, I don't know how they did that. They looked, whenever you captured them, it was always amazing that they all looked great. There wasn't one guy that looked like us. And so this way you could tell the enemy he was the guy that was clean. And those situations came up very often, and it's weird. A lot of weird situations came up. Very often they would give us like an 8-hour break from the front line, and we'd go back about 30, 40 miles. And it's sort of rest area, but the following morning you're back. Anyway, you would go to some sort of a camp embankment area, and you would have a big mess hall, and you would eat. And the people serving you are German prisoners of war. And you get to talking to some of them learned English by now. They were prisoners for quite a while. And it was amazing. They missed the whole war. They were not in the war for like 3-4 years, although the war was going on for 3-4 years. They were captured, like in North Africa. And so they missed North Africa, they missed Sicily, they missed France, Belgium, and Germany. And they spoke beautiful English after a while. They had access to all the food. They were feeding us. It was a weird situation at best. And the only way you could almost tell them apart was that they had PW, prisoner of war, stamped on the back of their shirts or whatever they wore. But you had those situations. That situation occurred again just diverting a moment to the United States. Coming back to the United States, I ended up in Camp Pickett, Virginia, and again in a hospital, but ambulatory. I could walk around. I walk around, and the first ward I walked into in Virginia is a regular ward, normal ward, but it's only girls, female soldiers. And that struck me sort of funny. And, I didn't realize there were that many wounded. And I got to talk to some of the American corporals or so that ran this ward. They were not soldiers. They were Red Cross girls, WACs, and so on, that were pregnant by German soldiers, Nazi soldiers, that were stationed in Camp Pickett, Virginia for 4 years. They lived there. They spoke English. They were as if they were residents of Virginia. And they had a little bit of freedom with it too. None of them ran away. Well, they had it very good. You'd see them walking along the side of the road. Again, the PW shirt was on, but they didn't live a very abnormal life. It was a strange situation. The war creates a lot of strange situations. There are many I won't go into now. We can stay here for 5 hours. But I'm touching on a lot of the major ones. And it's interesting that this does occur. A German prisoner of war will, maybe some of them ultimately marry these guys. I don't know. I doubt it, but you don't know. But they did speak English. They were very friendly. They had no problem. They were there 4 years. So you saw that, and you saw it in Europe too. And where they sent us to have this 8-hour break. Prison was not a bad thing for the Germans. How it was for our American prisoners, I don't know. Something I don't know. I don't think I ever want to find it out. But it did exist one way or another, a lot of these strange situations. So we touched on some medals, we touched on German souvenirs, we touched on the book Mein Kampf.
Did we talk about your third wound? You had the head wound, the finger wound?
A shoulder, slight shoulder wound.
And where was that?
Third wound, that was in Belgium. Mm-hmm. That was in Belgium. That was before Aachen. Aachen was Germany. This was in Belgium, near Aachen. Again, I got shot. This was a bullet by a German soldier in a campaign. This was near Liège, but not in Liège. I don't even remember the town. A lot of small towns, and it was a surface wound. It was not at all serious. It required a bandage. I don't even think I left the outfit for 1 day. I think I left and then came right back. I was always coming back for some reason. No one listened to me. Every time I turned around, they said, "No, you'll go back." I said, "Thank you." And a lot of funny stories with that too. Like in one of the instances in England, toward the end. Oh yes, just before the ZI, the Zone of Interior, before they did that, there was a major or a captain doctor that really wanted to send me back to the front line, no matter what, with the bullet wounds, with the invasion. And he and I really did not see eye to eye at all. So, but it's very tough to argue with a major or a captain, whatever it is, if you're a PFC. However, I decided to condescend and go back to the front line. So I said to him that I agree I should go back. However, if he'll come back with me and in front of me, so that we could talk to each other that way, not side by side. I want him in front of me in the front line. Well, of course, he didn't sort of like that idea at all. And we had a little argument there. Of course, I didn't have very much to lose. The front line, it was not a really good play. Anyway, he was overruled. He was overruled by some colonel that did look at the record and say that's ridiculous. He was overruled. So we got rid of that little problem. Although I don't think he was going to go to the front line. However, that problem, it does exist in spots, and you gotta have somebody on your side, or get lucky, or you go back.
This is about spring spring of 45. This is around spring of 45 now.
This
right?
would be, yeah, and you go back. It could be the fourth time. It's just not good. So anyway, we got lucky on that one, and we didn't go back. The other 3 times we went back. The shoulder one was minor. I left and the next day I was back. Matter of fact, the fellows with me, you're back? You just got shot. Yeah, but it was just a bandage. It was nothing. It almost missed. Shows the aim of a German soldier. Where are we now? What else can we touch on? $1 million. Ooh, we
got a
did
lot of that. How about the return to the States,
To the
the
United States?
adjustment to civilian life? You know, what was the
civilian,
reception
well, yeah,
when you came back?
That's interesting to some degree. Well, you're back. We're back in Camp Pickett, Virginia. We're back in Camp Pickett, Virginia, in a hospital in Camp Pickett, Virginia, really getting ready for discharge. But you know, before that, I just want to interject. You get a boat after they ZIU and you go back. You get a boat back to the United States. This boat landed, I think, it was on 46th Street and 12th Avenue, New York City. Keep in mind, this is where I come from. And the boat lands, and they put you in buses because they're going to send you to different, various local hospitals. And they tell me they're going to send me to a hospital in Long Island, Brentwood, somewhere in Brentwood, wherever that is. But the route he takes, he goes from 12th Avenue to 11th to 10th to 9th, and he passes 7th Avenue. Now, 7th Avenue and 42nd Street is a subway station, which for 5 cents in those days, subway was a nickel. I could go home in 25 minutes. I'm actually right near where I live, but you can't do that. You can't leave the spot. And I said to them, could I get out here? Well, the answer, of course, is no. And they send you to Brentwood, to the hospital, and I'm 30 minutes from my mother's apartment. Anyway, we get to Brentwood, Long Island, and you only stay, that's a replacement hospital. You don't stay there more than 3-4 days. Then you go to where you're really going to go, which is Camp Pickett, Virginia. And now I'm in Camp Pickett, Virginia, and incidentally, in March, St. Patrick's Day, March 17th of 1945, back in the United States, I got married. Still in the Army, still in the uniform, to my wife, Ruth. And we're still married to this day. That's amazing. And we're still married to this day. And that was in 1945, back in the United States. Matter of fact, then I report to Camp Pickett, Virginia. We had a furlough, 1 week furlough. I never got a furlough, incidentally. They owed me one. But they gave me one 1 week. And we had a honeymoon in the Hotel Pennsylvania on 33rd Street and 7th Avenue in New York City. That's how far we traveled. A nickel subway. Although her brother drove us down there. That's right, her brother Bill.
Just to backtrack one sec, were you writing letters to each other? Were you able to communicate?
We were writing letters to each other all through the war. Tons of letters, which we still have. We have every one of them. Ruth saved every one of them. Hundreds of them. And we have them in order, chronological order, right from the beginning, because we were not married at the beginning of the war. We were not, I was 18 years old. But as I said, we got married at the end of late in the war, back in the United States. And she has every letter. We got married in Hotel Pennsylvania, 1 week honeymoon. Now we're back in Camp Pickett, Virginia, and we have to get discharged. So we do. And I come home. Now, you know, like, what do you do next? Well, I had what they call a 5220 club for veterans. That is, if you can't get a job, if you needed money, or whatever that situation was, for 52 weeks, they would give you $20 a week, which in those days was quite a bit of money. Anyway, I never availed myself of it. I never did it. I went back to my old job, Manhattan Stationery Company. My same boss was still there, welcomed me. Well, he was a very patriotic kind of guy. And he gave me my job back in 5 minutes. And he asked if I could start the following Monday. This was Friday. I said, yeah, just stay Sunday up. And the following Monday, I did go to work as if I never left. Back, same job, well, a different position, but same company, same street, East 23rd Street near Lexington Avenue. And I went to work there, and I stayed there for several years until, well, of all of us, you change your job here and there and so on and so forth. But I never took the 5220 club. I never took unemployment. I did go the Monday. I took a weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and I went back to work from the job I left. That is sort of interesting too. A lot of people did go to the 5220. A lot of them also, and I sort of regret maybe not having done that, but I didn't do it, furthered their education. The government was very good in that a lot of fellows went to college on the government. And improved their life, I guess, in many, many cases. That was very common. That happened a lot because it was strange times. Things were not as good as they are now. Things were different. As I said, the subway was a nickel. Incidentally, a Frankfurter was a nickel. Newspaper was 2 cents.
What about the Lucy's?
Huh?
Didn't you tell me about the Lucy's?
Oh, Lucy cigarette. Well, yeah, it could nothing to do with the army, but of course, if you couldn't afford a pack of cigarettes, they were 10 cents then. You could buy what they call Lucy's, which is a loose cigarette. One cigarette was a penny, and the owners of the stores broke the packs open, and they would sell cigarettes for a penny. So if you had 2 cents, you'd have 2 cigarettes, and this existed. And there was a different time, a different world, a different era, a totally different thing, completely and totally. We knew all about computers, but we didn't want to tell you for about 30 years later, maybe 40 years later. So that's where we are in that situation. I'm just trying to think whether I overlooked anything. I don't know if I did.
How were you treated by the civilians back in the States? Was it...
After the war? No incident.
Were you asked a lot of questions? Did you want to talk about it? Did you not want to talk about it?
Not really. It's strangely enough, no, not really. Here and there, somebody would ask a question of not too importance, but a question that you could answer. But nobody really delved into like the horrors of it, or how did you live, or more important questions. It didn't come up. And like, not with me. Didn't come up. It just didn't come. I know, it's as if I never left. I don't know. I went back to the same apartment that I left when I went in, the same street. Almost nothing changed. It was weird. And I was very fortunate in many cases, though. I could shake off this whole thing very easily and in 5 minutes.
How's that?
And because, well, I guess it's your nature. And, you know, speaking of nature, that's a funny thing. A lot of fellows didn't. We had incidents during combat where you're fighting in combat. And some of the soldiers, and they were good soldiers, that would go through North Africa especially, and one day they snapped, just like that. It happens instantly, it happens in 2 seconds, and it happens out of control where they make a lot of noise. They yell, they scream, and they lose themselves. And of course you have to subdue them and send them back to a hospital, to evacuation station. So a lot of guys did snap, a lot of guys did get affected by this. I didn't. But a lot of them did, and that's what I say leading up to it. When I came home, I had no specific after effects at that point at all. A lot of them did. So like I say, I was in my same environment, the same surroundings, the same apartment, the same job, the same boss. So relatively the same. But I didn't go to the schooling, the college and all that, which maybe was an era, who knows these days, doesn't matter now. But might have been an error. The other things I didn't avail myself of at all. I went to work, so that ended that. What else can I tell you? You know, I don't really know.
Anything else you think of?
More women, the free French, the grade.
Yeah, you were
Purple
so
Heart,
incredibly thorough. I mean, can you look back? Can you actually,
The monthly
from your vantage point right now, look back on that 19-year-old man in the boat and kind of
Yeah.
remember the feelings?
Well, yeah, no, you know, it's funny. You could look back. I guess we all do at certain parts of our life. But, you know, it's such a different world from then to today that you could look back and remember. It was great. I had a great time growing up in Coney Island. Loved it. I loved it. I had a lot of friends. And it was great. The movies, a nickel, you go to the movies, and so everything. But it was a depression time, too. And there was not much money around. Like my father was out of work for several years, and then he got a job. A lot of men were out of work, and there were soup kitchens. A soup kitchen is a place where you go to get food. You have no money. There was a depression. Things were terrible. I think families would live on $20 a week with a husband, wife, and 2 children, very sparingly. Potato soup was a great invention because it was cheap and it was not bad. And you ate potato soup like every day was potato soup. It's hard to look back and relate such different times. There was no relationship to today's world, but none at all. You know, this is the world of computers and television sets and TV sets in the car, and nobody I knew in Coney Island, and I have a lot of friends, nobody I knew, not one person had a car. I didn't know anybody with a telephone at all. If we want to communicate with a relative in the Bronx, we sent a 1-penny postcard, and that's the way it was. So it's, you know, hard to look back and relate to this situation. It's just not the same world.
Of course.
In so many, in every which way, a brand new gorgeous suit would be maybe $8.75. A brand new car, if you could see one, was about $700. Ford was $700. That's brand new. Used, they were $25. I had one friend in the Bronx, ultimately, not in Coney Island, but in the Bronx. Fellow named Phil Gazzola, means nothing, bought a Ford for $25 with a rumble seat. A rumble seat, you don't even see that anymore, but it's a seat in the back of the car that's open, it's exposed. That car was $25. So, you're looking back, you can't come up with any semblance
No.
of anything.
But how about sitting in the boat on D-Day H hour, as a really young man, maybe
Sitting in the boat?
not knowing what you were about
Yeah.
to encounter? What, were you?
Yeah, that's a little interesting. I'll tell you why. When we were in that little boat going into the invasion, I was one of the very lucky ones. And I'll tell you why. When I say lucky, I had never been in combat to that minute, never. So I didn't really know what it was. So I didn't know what to expect. Like how bad could it be? They have a gun, we have a gun. They'll drop the ramp and we'll fight. But on the other hand, 90% of the fellows in the boat with me were in combat situations. They knew. They dreaded it. I didn't, because ignorance is a wonderful thing again. And they dreaded it. Some of them even said that when we hit the beach, and I saw this illustrated, they were going to dig a hole, bury themselves in that hole until the situation cleared up. And of course the beach would be the worst place that you want to be. But you didn't know that on the boat. And they knew what to expect, I didn't. And so I was sort of very relaxed, aside from the seasick. I was not seasick, some of them were. And the illustration came to pass, because when they did drop the ramp, and we did, some of them weren't wounded yet, ran off the boat. One of them, a fellow by the name of Joe Speckler, he was in all the invasions. I saw him digging, and I'm yelling to him, Joe, let's get out of here. Let's leave. And everybody else was yelling it to him too. But he kept digging until I didn't see him anymore. He got a direct hit. He was dead. You didn't want to be on the beach. I saw that. And then I saw another one, a fellow by the name of last name Chase, C-H-A-S-E. Same situation. He was digging also to hide his body into the mud of the ground. He didn't make it. He got killed. Again, because you don't want to be on the beach. But they knew what to expect. They knew the situation. I didn't know. So they jumped the ramp and I get off the ramp, and of course I was shot, so I had a clue, but not the same fear or the same dreading the incident that they had. I didn't have that yet. I never did have it, but I didn't have it then. So my goal was to get off the beach, hit that water, go under the water and get up and go, and I did that. A lot of them didn't. They didn't get off the beach. You could not get off the beach. There was no way.
We had talked once before about the movie Saving Private Ryan. And what's your impression of the realism?
Oh, the movie Saving, yeah, I did see the movie. As a matter of fact, I have it in the house. Somebody gave it to me as a gift. The movie, the first 10, maybe 15 minutes of the movie is excellent. I can't use the word, I can't emphasize it enough. It was well done, excellent, terrific. It showed the invasion exactly the way it was. It didn't glamorize it nor de-glamorize it. And so the rest of the movie was a real great movie, great story, nice, very good Hollywood movie. But the first 10, 15 minutes were fantastic. And I've told that to other people. If they see it, concentrate on the first 10, 15 minutes. That's how it was. That's how it was. There were landmines on the beach. If you hit one, you're dead. There were 15,000 Germans to 10 of us that could walk. And they had guns, we didn't. It was very, very authentic. It was excellent. Well done. My hat's off to, I guess, Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks, or whoever else is involved in it. They did a fantastic job. Really fantastic. My hat's off to them. Yeah, that was the incident with the movie. Yeah.
And of all the Americans, of anybody who landed on Omaha Beach that day,
Yeah.
do you have any idea how many are still alive today?
Oh yeah, well that's a good question. I don't know. It cannot be very many are still alive in now 2008 from 1944 for the simple reason that, well, number one, we're all in our 80s that are alive, and I'm one of the youngest ones that was on that beach. Most of them were older than me. Matter of fact, I might have been the youngest one in that group. I might have been. But now I'm 85, so they would be 88 to 90. And I guess most of them. Now, I did have a friend, Don Wilson, again, I'm mentioning the name now, that we stayed very close friendships with through 60 years. Now, he died about a year and a half ago. He was in touch with 3 or 4 of them with Christmas cards, etc. But the ones he was in touch with, his widow told me, they died. They died. So whether there's anybody alive today on November 1st of 2008, I don't know. There may be, if there are.
We're rolling. Today is Sunday, November 2nd, 2008, and we're continuing our Library of Congress Veterans History Project with Ralph Goldsmith. My name is Debbie Field. I'm the interviewer, and present in the room is Ralph's wife. I can't speak well today, Ruth. So we'll just sort of continue on a little bit from
all right,
some of your accounts of yesterday.
Sure, right. All right. If you'd like, we can start. Anytime you want to interrupt with your own questions, feel free.
Okay.
The only thing we didn't touch on well, we touched on quite a bit, but we didn't touch on any humorous parts of the real World War II epic that we all lived through. And there were several humorous parts of this, in spite of all the battles and the bloodshed and all the sad stories. And one of them, as a matter of fact, is the story of a pig. Now you say, where does the pig come into World War II? Well, the situation was this. We were in a beginning area of Germany. It was in the middle of the night. And by habit, we would have 2 men from each company with a machine gun stand on guard and on duty, just so we would stop the Germans if they were crawling up into our position. The rest of the company could sleep at that point. After 2 hours, they were sort of replaced by 2 other men. They could sleep, and this went on all night long. 2 men, 2 hours, just to keep the enemy at bay and just don't make any noise. Well, I was on duty that particular minute, in the middle of that night, with an assistant. We had a machine gun. I was the machine gunner. He was the assistant machine gunner. He would feed the belt into the gun. I would fire the gun. We are, at that point, the very, very front line of the United States Army. Nothing is in front of us except Germans. Nothing. Any sound would be a German. Any sound. And all of a sudden, we heard a sound. Now, this is not a good thing. And I looked at him, he looked at me. We didn't speak, you don't speak. And we just sort of put our ears to the ground, sort of this way, if this captures on film. And we're trying to hear, and we do hear movement. We do hear noise, we do hear something. We cannot see what it is, we don't know what it is, but it's got to be a German. It's not a civilian taking a stroll like at 3, 4 in the morning. And so we did feed a belt into the machine gun. I then loosened one of the wing nuts on the bottom of the gun so that I didn't have to aim at any one area. I wanted to spray it from not seeing a target, but we'd spray it left to right, right to left, back and forth, so that anything in line is going to get hit, whatever it is. And now we hear the noise, and it's a little closer. It's too close. That's not very comfortable. We're going to fire now. And we do. We're firing. There's 250 bullets on a belt. We finished the belt, and he loaded another belt. And we didn't fire that. We just started and we stopped. Do we hear it anymore? Well, we didn't hear any noise at all, and without a sound. We figured, well, whatever it was, we must have hit it, and that's good. But in firing, we made a lot of noise. The noise woke up the entire F company, our own company, and they come out with guns, and but they don't what went wrong, what happened, and they're screaming and they're yelling, and we don't know what to tell them. And what happened is when daylight came, they sent a squad out. Again, there's the word patrol, to what is out there, and there comes the pig. We found a dead pig. We shot a pig. A pig was the one going across our front line. And this is very funny, but they brought the pig back to our butchers, our chefs, our cooks. They would make spare ribs or bacon or pork, whatever it was. And the joke was that we hit the pig 52 times. Now, I don't know whether we hit the pig, whether it was 52 times, I don't know. But the pig was sure dead. And they cooked the pig. They do whatever butchers do with pigs. And that was the pig story. And that became a joke within the company. Like the captain said, "Are you guys crazy?" And we're trying to explain to them that you don't see the enemy at 3. And he knows that. He knows that. He was just picking on us. And that was one of the funny stories. There are more. That we call that the pig story. In Germany, but not far in, just out of Belgium. Middle of the night situation occurs. And these situations occur. And this is the weird part of war, sometimes in the middle of the night. It's not the enemy. There's nobody there. There's a pig walking across farmland, whatever. And that was the pig story. Then we have the mortar story. This starts out sad, ends up funny. The mortar story is, I'm a machine gunner, and we have mortar guns in our company. We have guys that operate these things, and I don't know how to operate a mortar. I never bother with it. However, we got into a really heavy battle with some German infantry outfit at some point in Germany again. Real serious stuff this time, and heavy exchange of gunfire, and so on and so on and so on. And then later that evening, the captain came over to me and another machine gunner, and he said, "Ralph, for tonight, you have to go on a mortar." I said, I can't fire them. I don't know how to fire a mortar. And he said, "No, you don't understand. You have to, because every mortar man was killed in our outfit. They were all killed. This was a big battle." And so, all right. So they gave me a mortar, and there's an assistant there too. An assistant of a mortar is a guy that drops a firing pin into a tube. That tube hits it, and the mortar flies out. But to do that, you have to level 2 bubbles. It's a really involved type of thing. And you level the bubbles to a certain degree, and that makes the top of the mortar go down, up, sideways, or whatever, to a position. So we were told that there were Germans like about 300 yards to our right in front of us. So we should level the bubbles to get this gun to go 300 yards into that area. And the gun will do that. I don't know how to level the bubbles. And I'm playing with them, and I'm playing with them, and I'm leveling, and it doesn't happen. But at some point, we get a little desperate, the captain does, and he says, "Fire the mortars." We have 2 mortars. And I said to the assistant guy, says, "Listen, fire it." I have no idea where it's going to go. And this becomes the funny part of the story. He does drop the bullet, the weapon into the tube. It hits the firing pin, and it flies out. Now I'm watching it, and it's going straight up in the air. Straight up, almost straight as a ruler. Now I start screaming, "Run!" because it's going to come down where we are, or close to. And I'm yelling, "Run, run, run!" And all the guys around me from our own company, they see this. Now they are running, the captain is running. The captain's name, incidentally, was Finky. We called him Fearless Finky. And Fearless was going crazy. What did he do? What did he do? Now this thing does come back down, and it does land, 10 or 15 feet from where we were. Of course, we were not there anymore. And he said, "Are you trying to kill us?" And it became a whole joke. Again, for about 2 weeks, we never heard the end of that. They actually fired a mortar that went maybe 10 feet instead of maybe 300 yards, and not knowing how to fire it. So the sad part was the mortar guys got killed. They gave me a mortar. They gave somebody else one too. I don't know if he ever fired it. But it was a wacky situation with everybody just running in every direction, but away from where we were. Just away from where we were. So there became the pig story. Then came the mortar story. And then there were many more. There's the one where you march. This is not in combat. We were in England getting ready to go to France. And it becomes a Saturday morning, and we were told the night before that we were going to have to fall out at 7 a.m. General Bradley himself and a corps of his guys that hang out with him, his aides, are going to visit us like around 10 in the morning, and we're going to do what they call, well, it's a parade, but without the dress uniforms. Just us are going to march right flank, right turn, left turn, forward, reverse, in front of him as a sort of parade, the 1st Infantry Division. Well, all right, we get all set that morning. Now, 7 a.m., Fearless Finky comes into my area, where we sleep, and he says, Goldsmith, here's the situation. You will not, I repeat, you will not leave the bed. Do not come out, do not march, do not make yourself even seen or known when General Bradley is here. You cannot march, so you will embarrass us. And by embarrassing us, we cannot have our weekend passes. Don't come out. So, of course, that's fine. I'll lay in bed and read a magazine or two. It didn't bother me one iota.
Well, why did he say that?
And so,
Why did he tell you that?
He didn't want me to come out.
Why?
The reason that not coming out is whenever we did, even without the general, whenever we did fall out for a march or a parade or whatever, then he would say, halt. And at some point, everybody stopped. I stopped too. And I'm like about 50 yards in front of all the rest of them. I cannot keep in cadence. I cannot keep in step with them. I'm marching to my own drum. They're marching correctly. And so we're separating as the time went on, a little further, until all of a sudden I'm going by myself. And they knew that's what will happen. And it would. So I decided, okay, this is why he's right in saying it. I'll stay, and I stayed in bed. And that happens is 10 o'clock did come, they did fall out, they did do the parade thing. And then Bradley decides to inspect the barracks, which nobody ever figured he's going to do. There's no way Bradley doesn't inspect barracks. So he does. Now there's nobody in there but me, like reading a magazine. So he does come over to me and he said, is there something wrong with you, soldier, PFC? No, I'm just very sick, very sick. I got up this morning, fever, throwing up, something I ate. Situation is not really good. I'll probably end up in the company hospital. Oh, he says, well, take a rest, take it easy. Is that why you didn't come out? I said, oh, absolutely. So he commends me for not coming out. I should get better. And I'm saying to myself, I hope he leaves, because the less you say, the better. And then he did leave with his entourage, and they left. They got into their jeeps, their trucks, whatever they came with, and they left. The captain then came in. He says, Goldsmith, you did good. You did good. So he did get a weekend pass out of this. And that was the situation with the marching. And to this day, I never did march in cadence with the rest of them. For some reason, I just don't. I break stride. But not with General Bradley. It's not a thing to do. I did it. We got away with it. So that incident sort of helped. That was the marching incident. The pig story, the mortar. Oh, we have another one. This is in England. This is, again, before we got to France. We were in this very small town in England, Weymouth, in our little hotel, and we were there for like 6 months. So after a while, we got to know the civilians in the town. We got to know the local fire department volunteers. They were all much, much older men. The younger men had all been drafted into the army. And so I, by some quirk of circumstance, got friendly with 3 or 4 of the firemen. They must have been between 70 and 90 years of age, and here I was, by then maybe 19. And every night we could go to town. We were allowed. It was right there. It was about a 1 mile walk. And I would go to the local firehouse where they would offer me like a drink. We didn't get just one drink, but sometimes that drink was Calvados, which you fall down the floor, and that's the end of your night. One drink, Calvados, powerful, very powerful. And I got friendly with them. So at one point, one night, it became after dinner hour, mess hall. I decided I'll go to town. And I went to town, and they gave me a glass of Calvados, and it was extremely potent. And I went out like a light. So what they did then, about an hour later, they took me back to the hotel that we were staying at, which is about a mile away. I had no recollection of this at all, but none. And they took me to the room that I stayed in, and I went to sleep. And then the following morning, Don Wilson, who was one of my 3 other roommates, woke me up we have to fall out at 6 a.m. They do a count of the soldiers there, how many, your name, they ask your name, you yell here. And so 6 a.m. I got up, I'm foggy, and I put on my helmet, but I did not put on the helmet liner. There's a liner that goes underneath the helmet. It keeps the helmet from going down over your eyes and your ears. In combat, that's a good thing, but normally you don't wear the helmet. But I didn't use the liner. I put the helmet on, and very groggily I walked down into the street right in front of the hotel, and we all lined up. And the captain is reading, well, the first sergeant is reading the names, and each name is reading here, 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 and then he yells out, Goldsmith. And I yell out, I'm blind. He's not here, I can't see. What happened? And I make a big scene that I really couldn't see. And I thought maybe something went wrong overnight, that I turned blind. And Don, who was standing next to me, came over and he says, are you crazy? The helmet is over your own eyes. It's your own helmet. And I'm screaming blind, get me to the doctor, the hospital. I figured this is a way that maybe I'll leave the outfit. But it didn't work. And the fact is that the helmet does go over your eyes, but if you're half drunk and it's pitch black like at 5, 6 in the morning, you're in another world. And this was, again, I heard that for about 2 weeks, that the guy was blind, and the helmet and the liner. But you do have to put the liner under the helmet, of course. And that was the story of the blind. That was in England, getting ready for France. Many incidents, that's another one of them. We had one every 10 days. That's the story, running home. Marching, no. Well, that's 4 of the very funny stories, not serious, not in real combat situations that did occur. There are many more that you can recollect from 60 years ago that did happen that are a little weird to some of us, like from New York. Another one was that when we first got into France, when I first came back from being wounded, this would be somewhere about middle or late July of 44, and I had never seen this before. I went back to my outfit, and we were marching through some city. I don't know the name of the city. We were in a different city every day, and it was in the morning, and we came on a farm. And on the farm were many live chickens walking around the farm. Now, I'm from New York City. I'm not used to seeing chickens walking around. And there they were, and so on and so on. But we did have farm boys in our outfit. And fresh chicken was a great thing to eat, I guess. And so what happened is I saw one of them. He gets a chicken, he swings it around his head. And I'm wondering, what is he doing? And he swings the chicken around his head, and the chicken dies. And then they give it to the cook, and we have fresh chicken. They did it with a lot of chickens. And I was wondering, what is he doing? This is something I never saw before in my life, swinging chickens in the air. And a few of the guys did do that were farm boys from Middle West or wherever. And to us from New York or Philadelphia or Washington, we never saw anything like this. And it was the first time I saw it. I then saw it many times after that, during the whole war. But this was an everyday occurrence that I was not at all familiar with, that did happen, and that the farm boys and all took for granted. This is what they did every morning when they got up at home. And we had never saw a thing like this. The Bronx, Brooklyn, or 42nd Street, you didn't exactly kill a chicken. And that's another situation. And there were many funny situations that occur from time to time. So it was not all a tragedy and fighting, although there was enough of that. But you had to break some of the tension here and there, and we did. But again, we went from town to town, city to city, checked. We never got to Paris. I think Patton, the Third Army got there, but we didn't. I think he did. I think he did.
You were the First Army.
And we were the First Army under General Bradley, and there was Patton with the Third Army, and then there was Mark Clark with the Fifth Army. There were 3 of them. That fake army, the rubber army that I told you about, they weren't there. That was just balloons. But that was Patton's responsibility, just to, I guess, sit there and smoke a cigar. And then he actually got his own army, and then we went in. Again, he got into many disputes with Eisenhower too. Patton, just as a side issue, having nothing to do with me, wanted to continue in Europe into Belgium, Germany, and Russia. He did not want to stop. He wanted to just keep fighting and fighting into and with the Russians against. Eisenhower stopped him cold, being the supreme commander, and there was no argument with Eisenhower. You don't argue with General Eisenhower. And there was a battle, and he fell in disfavor with Eisenhower because of that. Pat was a very, very strong-minded man, and he was a member of his own convictions, and he wanted to do this. He said, let's fight till we win it all, everybody. Russia was an enemy to him. Really, they were our allies, but he didn't consider that. And he fell in disfavor, and half of his command was then given to General Bradley and to General Mark Clark. And he still retained half of it, and he still kept his 3-star ranking. But they were never friendly again, I don't think, General Eisenhower and General Patton. Each one had their own convictions. Eisenhower was the boss. What he said goes. And Patton, he could not accept it. He could not accept it. To this day, was he right or wrong? I don't know.
Was that
I don't know.
was that before or after Germany surrendered? Do you know?
That was on the way to Germany. We were in Germany already. He wanted to continue on into Russia and fight them. He wanted to fight them. He didn't consider them allies. They were. They really were.
But originally,
he had his mind made up. They were not. They were going to be an eventual enemy.
Well, initially, though, they were with Germany in the invasion of Poland.
Oh, initially, yeah. Initially, they were not an ally, but they did become allies. They did fight the Germans. Oh, yeah. I mean, they did a job. But, but many years later, we are not exactly friendly with Russia to this day. And he maybe in the long run will be, is right. We don't know that. We will never know it. And of course, all the principles are dead. So it's that part is meaningless. But maybe he was right. He said, but he fell in disfavor. They took half his command away. They let him keep the 3-star general. But with the 2 pearl-handled pistol revolvers, he was hell on wheels, this guy. But I saw him once, only once. We crossed paths. He was in a different army. And I saw him, and he does have the 2 pearl-handled revolvers and the Jeep with the 3 big blazing stars on a flag on top of it with an entourage. And he's gung-ho, And then he had an incident.
Where did you see him?
We saw him in some part of, was it Belgium? It was France. It was France, somewhere, I think St. Lo. And there was an incident that happened that the next day. I didn't see the incident, but it made all the newspapers. He came upon a different group from the First Army, not my group, this was like the next day. And he was talking to one of the soldiers.
Ralph, I'm sorry, I'm about to run out of tape, so I'm going to switch tapes, all right?